Hello and welcome to Your Schools. I'm Lynne Turner Fitzgerald, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Erwin Garcia, the new school superintendent. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the community.
Thank you, Lynne. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. Now, as we said before we started taping, you have some pretty ambitious plans for this district. I did print out the strategic plan going over just, kind of broad strokes, but one of the plans that I've heard you talk about is to launch seniors, juniors into pre-college courses. So tell me about that.
Yes. So the work really starts with middle school students. So our goal is to go back to the middle schools and go back to their master schedule, because what we see is that we're not maximizing the possibilities for our middle schoolers. We can have more middle school students having high school credit early.
Okay.
So that way they have a pathway, I guess a streamlined pathway for college readiness, college and career readiness. So the goal is to adjust the middle school master schedule, but then recruit some of our 8th graders at the different middle schools, not only from the district, but the nearby districts as well. So we invite and give the kids an opportunity to apply. Most likely we're thinking we're going to do a lottery system. So we don't look at so we give everybody a chance, pretty much.
Sure.
And anyone who's interested and has there's some basic, what we call a baseline that is required to qualify for the early college high school concept. And then we will give, on the first 2 years of high school, those kids will receive the typical high school pathway coursework. But we're going to start embedding some college preparation courses within that. And then the last 2 years will be in partnership with a university.
Wow.
Hopefully Rocky Mountain or MSUB. That's the goal. We're having the conversations with these two wonderful institutions. So that way we develop a pathway for kids to not only obtain their high school diploma, but also their associate's degree, which there's 400 schools in the nation that provide associate's degrees to students, but we will be the first one in the state of Montana doing this.
So a student could exit high school with an associate's degree in hand. That's amazing.
Yes.
Not only does it save time, it saves money.
Yes.
So then they can take that 2-year degree and perhaps finish a 4 or go beyond.
Correct, and that will reinvigorate our local institutions. If we already have a child that has a pathway all the way to a bachelor's degree, and the university that partners with us already has a mechanism to communicate with the families to create that pathway, that could lead to reinvigorating our public institutions and our private institutions. If Rocky Mountain is willing to go in this pathway, I think it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, local institutions, the local economy, win-win for the parents that are saving so much money, win for the district because we're offering better programs for kids.
Well, now what about the educators? How does this alter their job?
Right. So that's something that could be seen by many as the biggest challenge.
Okay.
Because, for instance, MSUB has, as a local public institution, they have a union, and they have a board that, of course, will have to think through the implications of having a program like this. Rocky Mountain, of course, has a board, and they might not have a union, but still, they have to really go back to that mission statement that they have produced and come back to say, is this a good match for what we want our community to look like? Now, when it comes to the funding, of course, as the district, we come back to CTE funding. We go back to typical A&B. We're applying for all sorts of grants. We're looking for creative ways to fund programs like this. I know there is a charter bill that is being operationalized. Governor Giafonte just nominated a group of people that will actually unpack I want to say the Anderson charter school bill. Okay. We don't know how that could actually be, could match the envisioning of this early college high school. That could actually be an option. It could be a charter school managed by the district and where we provide our teachers. I know there will be discussions on what is our role, what is the university or the partner's role in this process, but we're using this year to plan for that. Yeah. Hopefully by February, March, we already have a clear pathway with the coursework, with the catalog, and then our job will be to disseminate information, talk to the families, get the kids interested, and of course, by that time, we should have both institutions making their minds and decisions on what their future looks like regarding this plan.
Well, do you have an idea of the population of this group of students?
Yes. So we've discussed that with my team because, early college high schools, I've seen both models where you attend to the high-performing kids and you set a very high bar for kids to be able to apply. But what happens with this is that we go back to a conversation about equity and how is this serving the needs not only of bright kids, but also kids that are bright, but they have different backgrounds. So, for instance, think about children in poverty. Yeah. Some children have to work part-time. They finish the school day and they go work 8 hours because they have to take care of their families and their little siblings. So we don't, and honestly, if I were to go back to cases like this, I could predict that some of these kids are actually not having as high GPA as other kids or higher grades as other kids. But are they equally smart and equally...
It's just a different priority.
Correct.
I mean, this is real life.
Correct.
And taking care of your family obviously is going to take precedence over your geometry class.
That is correct. So if we set the bar too high, then we're going to get a group of kids. But if we expand that option for kids of color, for Native American kids, for African American kids, for kids that are more vulnerable, it's kids with special needs, all backgrounds, and then we put all the applicants in a system where we can fairly select from Elysian, from the neighboring districts, from within our district.
Right.
Give the kids a chance to participate in something like this will be absolutely great. It will be fair, and it will take all the biases that sometimes people get associated with.
It's a lottery.
It's a fair process.
Right.
You got selected. We put many of the kids on a waiting list.
Sure.
And then for kids that decide not to continue with the model, then we open that space for all the kids.
Well, now, to clarify, would these students then take their pre-college classes on the college campus, or would they stay in the district
They can
classroom?
stay within the district, because what we can do, and we have discussed, is as long as the partner, because the partner is critical in this, right? The partner has to accept that the coursework that we're putting the kids on will lead to an associate's degree, so through and through. So we have to start with the end in mind. So the end in mind is the graduation with a child with a right hand with a high school diploma and associate's degree.
Right.
So then we backtrack. So in the agreement, it could be that we offer the college course with a teacher who has a master's degree and is able to teach that, but the institution, the partner, recognizes that course is valid. And so I've seen it work both ways, where you only do the first 2 years is high school, pure high school, with entry-level college courses.
Okay.
But we also seen ways where the institution is actually providing a professor with the credentials to teach a particular course early, so we build the students up to the early college or the associate's degree.
There's a lot to work through.
Oh, absolutely.
But the end is in sight, right? I mean, that's the goal. That's where you want to be.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's talk about student achievement in the district here. What are your thoughts?
It is a reality. There's some great things happening, I have to say. I mean, I go to classrooms and I visited every single school, starting April up to now, every single school. And as the superintendent of the district, I visited probably about 10 schools. And every time I go to a school, I go to the classrooms. I want to see what's happening.
Yeah.
And I've seen some great instruction, some kind of average instruction, and I've seen areas where we know there's room for improvement.
Okay.
And I wouldn't blame it on the teachers. I think that it goes back to services and how we set expectations and how we equip people to deliver those expectations, right? It's not only setting expectations, it's setting supports. But when it comes to student outcomes, we are the lowest performing AA district. So I went back to...
In the state?
The AA, yes. So
really?
If you take the 8 AA districts and you make a comparison of students reading on grade level, meaning the students are proficient or advanced.
Okay.
And you take those percentages in 3rd grade math, 3rd grade reading, 4th grade reading, 4th grade math, and now we have those all the way up to 8th grade. We are the lowest performing district. That's a fact.
That surprises me.
Yeah.
It does.
Because my understanding is the district wasn't performing. It was actually one of the higher performing districts in the state.
Well, and I went through this school district too, and it certainly was considered that.
Right.
But that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, I don't want to pass blame.
No.
I don't think that would be ethical of me. We had a pandemic right in the middle of, these last, 5 years. But moving forward is my responsibility.
Right.
So honestly, I have to, number one, mention and state the facts.
Yep.
I'm not going to masquerade it. I don't want to pretend that this is not a reality. It is a reality, and we need to do something about that.
How do you fix it?
Well, it starts with, there's multiple ways we can attack that, but we have to have a clear instructional focus. So we have identified three levers that are the core of our focus for this year. So lever number one is data-driven instruction. So we're going to utilize data to inform first instruction and, of course, to inform interventions. Second lever is instructional planning. That's where I've seen, in my experience, that's where the cookie crumbles many times. We're not aligning the curriculum to the activities. So when you go to a classroom and you don't see an icon statement, that's problematic. If there's not a roadmap for that lesson being given, then the activities might be, engaging or could be good activities, but they don't align to the overall purpose of that curriculum for that particular year. Mm-hmm. And then if we're not aligning the assessment to the activities and to the objective, then we have misalignment.
Right.
And that goes with instructional planning. So we're working heavily equipping my inner circle, my executive directors. We have 3, 2 for elementary and 1 for 6 and 12. Mm-hmm. Those are our conversation. We're building capacity around those. We develop a tool, so when they go to principals, they're having the same conversations as what are the essential questions for these 2 levers. And the third lever is observation and feedback. Of course, you can plan all you want, but if you don't execute with high fidelity and you're not there to observe it, then there's really not so much.
Well, how do you monitor that? How do you judge it during its process?
Right. So we start with at the executive level. That trickles down to principals, and we are helping principals help teachers. Because at the end of the day, the magic happens when the child sits in front of the teacher and the teacher delivers that first instruction or that intervention. So we have to strengthen the PLC process around those 3 levers: data-driven instruction, instructional planning, and observation and feedback. So observation and feedback happens during the PLC, after the PLC. So how do we ensure that 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 alignment exists is only when the observation and feedback matches what was designed on the planning. And then the outcomes will show that we're actually on the right track.
Yeah.
So I think we have to close that circle and be very intentional. So it starts with me. So if I'm disconnected from that process, that instructional process, and I just pay attention to all of the political things that happen around the world, I might not be able to really support my leaders, and then them supporting principals and principals supporting teachers. So you'll see me around all the time. You'll see me in classrooms all the time. Because what? I'm looking for that execution that matches that planning.
Do you anticipate pushback?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's I enter and anticipate pushback as being part of a dynamic of change. So pushback is logical, it's normal, but we also have to take into account not only the what, but the how. So that's why the conversations with principals and teachers is around coaching, which is you're not going in to tell people what to do.
You're working
together. Ask powerful questions so that leader or that teacher comes with the solution to that problem or practice that is seen. That has been, at least we started that process. We've had about 10 principals now that have gone through the coaching model and process with me and the executive directors. We practice conversations, like coaching conversations with the principals.
Sure.
And honestly, I haven't received any pushback from principals.
Good.
They seem to be very receptive to the coaching notion and how it's never judgmental. It's really about a particular area, a problem or practice. The feedback I've received is this is helping them be better leaders.
Right. Well, if it all works, it seems that everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
Most importantly, the student
Correct.
wins. But there is a teacher shortage in this country. Are we experiencing that here?
Yes, we're experiencing in Montana. We currently have 600 vacancies.
Oh,
About a month and a half, we had 1,000 vacancies. We started with about 70, 80 vacancies, and right now we're fully staffed. We're only have a couple of substitute full-time teachers. So these are certified teachers that we need to hire to cover for maternity leave, things like that, or family medical leave. We have a couple of positions open, but as of now, we're fully staffed. So right now, every kid has a certified teacher in the classroom.
Well, what do you think is behind the shortage, though, nationwide?
Well, one of the things that I attribute to this teacher shortage is that the compensation package for teacher is not
that always
the
comes
most
up.
attractive.
Yeah, that always comes up.
And it is fact that when a teacher in Montana average starts with about $42,000, in Billings is about 44. That is not the most competitive rate salary as we consider other professions.
Right.
Even retail or businesses are offering $19 an hour, $20 an hour just to start. And that puts a pressure on highly educated individuals that most of the time went to get student loans to finance their bachelor's degrees. Now they're in debt, and then they come to a workforce that is paying them very, very little. I think the compensation of teachers in this nation, that's something that we as the public have to really think through, because this is the most important profession. I mean, we touch the lives of every single person that wants to be a productive member of society. If we think about employability skills, physicians, scientists, anyone really has to go through an educational process, and you have teachers there that are doing the best they can with passion and love for kids, and unfortunately they're not compensated adequately. Now that's one factor. I think another factor contributing to the teacher shortage is culture and climate. And I think...
Does that include politics?
Yeah, that includes politics. And that has to do tremendously with politics, because when we go back to that culture and climate, and teachers feel somehow that there is a disconnect between parents and teachers. And somehow, especially during COVID, those tensions were very prevalent and noticeable. You just turn on the TV to realize that we were fighting against somehow families. And that's not what we are here to do. I think we must be allies. I mean, we must be partners. The only way kids can succeed is if the parents have the role and we respect their rights, and parents also respect the work of the professionals in the buildings that are teaching curriculum. And that should be the focus, that curriculum that we're supposed to teach.
Well, I've heard it said that being an educator is really a passion. You have to have a passion for it. Was that a motivator for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I started my career back in Texas, I was called to serve a school where the majority of the population was white, and they had a small group, a small community, very impoverished community of Hispanic, Mexican-American children in poverty, performing at a very low level. So when I say very low level, is in a group of 30 kids in third grade, 0% of the kids will be considered proficient. So like on the state assessment, I remember seeing the data, it was 35%, 40%. Very low, that's passing the test, that's not proficient.
Okay, yeah.
That's approaching, is like almost there, but not quite there.
Right.
So that group of kids, I was able to be the teacher, and my push for them, we are all going to meet the minimum requirements of the state. That was my first goal. Okay. And we actually made it happen. I mean, that school was not meeting federal guidelines, AYP, we call it AYP. The school was actually in trouble because of that. And I remember we had a really good group of teachers, and we were very passionate, and we all were moving the data tremendously. The school became recognized as an exemplary campus, because the only piece that was missing for them was that little part of the puzzle, was that little group of Hispanic kids that couldn't speak English, and they were still held accountable for the assessment. Yeah. But kids were smart.
They're smart, yeah.
But we just had to really equip them with the right tools. And I took that job with passion and love. I love what I did, and I love what I do.
A lot of satisfaction in that. We are just about out of time, but I was wondering if people have questions for you or the district, how do they go about contacting you?
Thank you for that question. And it's very simple. Anybody can go to the website, and they will find two icons on the top of the website. One is the anonymous tip line, which is anything suspicious in the community that people would like to report.
Good.
They click on it and they submit the form. And there's an icon next to it that says Ask Erwin.
Okay.
So Ask Erwin has my little picture there.
Yeah.
You click. The only required information is the message.
Okay.
So if there's no entry on where it says the message or question or concern, then it wouldn't be submitted. But if people make a comment, concern, complaint, question, and they put their email address or phone, I can go back to them. So far, since we opened, we've had about 120 requests, complaints, words of appreciation, issues, you know. Yeah. As simple as my child didn't get to the restroom today. I'm upset about my child not being able to go to the restroom, and me addressing that with the principal, and just anything that people feel they need to talk to the superintendent. There's no, you don't have to memorize my email address or my phone number. They can just ask Erwin on the website.
Ask Erwin. It's
Correct.
Well, this has been a wonderful first conversation. I'm
Yes.
certainly glad. It's not going to be our last. I know that
Great.
for sure. We'll have you back very soon.
Thank
And I
you,
want to
Lynne.
thank all of you for joining us on Your Schools. I'm Lynne Turner Fitzgerald, and we'll see you next time.